MSI 2023 Caster Desk. I'm Atlus. I'm joined by Cronicler and Azael, and we are immediately into the Game 1 draft for JDG versus T1. And yes, indeed, the matchup we've all been waiting for.
I'm just here, just another LPL LCK caster here to cheer on my teams.
Yeah!
Definitely still in the tournament.
We did this last year. I'm ready to get back into it, man. This is exciting. And already, a whole bunch of bans have come through. Chronicler, do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, I want to specifically talk about the JDG bans. The Lucian ban makes a lot of sense.
100%, remain
still,
100%.
Yeah, still can't give that over to T1. I love the Sion ban specifically, though. I think the Sion strat makes it really hard to make sure that T1 doesn't get the explosive early game they're looking for. They're very adapted, and even if you can deal with it, it can warp the game in a way that doesn't allow you to play your usual early game.
Absolutely. I mean, we've even seen people try to answer it. We saw, bringing the Gwen down to the bot side, trying to answer this dive, and even still, that did not work. And we are flying through pick bans.
Yeah, Annie already insta-locked. Obviously, an incredibly strong pick at the moment, something that Faker was playing a lot in their previous series, but of course, Knight no stranger. But then Ksante and Nautilus immediately locked in. Is this the Nidalee angle?
I mean, it's very likely double solo lanes that have been locked in for T1. We haven't really seen as much of Nautilus getting flexed towards bot. Of course, they could be trying to do something a little bit tricky going for that. Ruler going to be getting his Jinx. Aphelios is up. You have to feel like Aphelios is going to get locked here with Lucian already banned away, Jinx already taken, unless they want to go towards something that we haven't really seen as much as.
And I was actually we were having some conversations backstage talking about this bottom lane and the Aphelios versus Jinx, which is going to be inevitable. I have a feeling that Ruler is just happy to handshake that every single time, and Gumayusi's like, oh, that means I get Aphelios. I'm down to handshake that every time. So guys, if you want variance in the bottom lane, maybe tomorrow.
Maybe next tournament, I think is the real answer.
And last time we watched these two teams play, actually, the first 3 games were exactly the same bottom lane.
Want to highlight what JDG have here so far. Extremely strong team fighting core. There is some flex potential, but I do expect the Annie to just go towards the mid lane. And for T1, still a lot of flexibility. We've mostly seen the Nautilus go mid, but Nautilus Aphelios is a very strong bot side combo that you can end up going for nonetheless.
Yeah, Rumble has been popping up more and more. Oner already played it once in the jungle, so they do know that it has the flexibility to go mid, to go jungle. Is becoming a really powerful pick when the game has been so much around 5v5s, fighting around objectives. It does give you a lot of that early power to try to look towards those early heralds, especially Malphite and the Gwen. So I mean, Gwen obviously a little bit of protection ban here for potentially the Ksante or another tank top that they could lock in.
Yeah, 369 angle maybe.
Yeah, it definitely could be. It could also just be Ksante top, which you wouldn't really want to play into that Gwen. But we're not certain exactly where these solo laners are going to go yet.
I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing the jungler locked in here for T1, and then keep kind of unclear what is Keria going to play. Is it going to be Ksante mid? Is it going to be Nautilus mid? And not give the answers, and it will indeed be the Kindred pickup here. So looking like already a double frontline, double AD composition here for T1.
I'm kind of just expecting Thresh to come through. I do think Jinx Thresh can be quite strong, and also potentially a denial pick away there from Keria. But it'll be interesting to see where they want to go. 369 Gragas, I think, would make a lot of sense here.
Still somewhat flexible as well, given the fact that the support hasn't been clearly shown, but we expect that Annie to be heading
it could be any support as well. So there's a lot of options here. I mean, that is one of the interesting things about the draft, is that both these teams are obviously relying heavily on flex picks. So there is still, all the way down to this 5th and final pick, some potential for things to be moved around. If the Braum gets locked, obviously it is Annie mid, it is Gragas top, things kind of become very clear at that point.
I love the Braum. I think that already T1 has a very short-range team composition. It's going to rely a lot on just starting the front-to-back team fights. Braum takes away so much of the power. You can just stand in front, block the initial engage, and then on the re-engage, we've already seen that JDG is extremely strong. And this seems to be a confirmation that it will be Nautilus mid, Thresh locked in, and we know what Keria can do on this pick.
We can. We actually saw this out of the other LCK representative yesterday, the double hooks. You need an extra one on the Rift. Nautilus this time paired with the Thresh instead of the Blitzcrank. Definitely one of Keria's best picks that he's ever had. Remember when the buff came in and
it just wasn't fair?
Perpetually? Yeah, I think Keria was a large reason why that got nerfed pretty immediately.
Yeah, well, it turns out when Keria plays it, it's point and click, and then it's just really not a fair buff. So You know, unlike yesterday, there's a tremendous amount of engage on both sides, though. You know, it is double hook time team on the T1 side, but we have Annie, we have Gragas, we have Wukong. We have so many ways to start fights on both sides. So vision control is going to become incredibly important. Playing around that fog, that darkness is going to become incredibly important. And the Braum, you know, is going to be nice for face checking in these situations where you're trying to clear out vision. So will be interesting to see how T1 is going to be able to play this out. Yeah,
also the Braum kind of plays as a great denial as well, because they had the Gragas on their side, and so you can't set up that door to block all of the explosive casts that are going to be coming through.
And they made it!
We've done it!
I want to highlight as well, the Gragas is one of the picks that I think does really well into the Kindred, can deny a lot of the value from that ultimate, and 369, his team fighting has been impeccable, going to be really impactful in that top lane.
Well, we'll just have to see how it is going to go. Prepared now, gentlemen, to get onto the Rift for game number 1. Last time these two teams met, it was T1 favored. There has been a lot of time, and there's been a few roster swaps on this JDG. Very much looking forward to seeing whether they can hold on to their undefeated streak here at MSI.
I mean, this is just going to be so incredibly exciting. It feels like this is the matchup we've been waiting for all this time, building towards it here at MSI. T1, so much history behind this squad. And now going up here against JDG. It's going to be a monstrous battle. I mean, the tournament to me has all been about AD carries, has all been about team fighting. You know, Jat and the desk were talking about it. They're showing the breakdowns of how these two teams, you know, really do peel for and enable their marksmen so incredibly well. And now you're going to have two teams that are truly masters at it, trying to pull it off against each other. So the push and pull, do you become more aggressive? Do you use all those tools to dive? Do you save them to peel? I think is so interesting.
And Cronicler, I got a question for you. Do you think that T1 have five-headed this? Because you mentioned it's all about the AD carry. Why not just pick an extra one?
Yeah, they do have two.
You have a backup.
You know, you do have to give up a little bit of damage when it comes to the AP part, and I do think that that in the longer part of the game can play a part, particularly if T1 can't get either Guma or Oner ahead. Talking about that, Kindred, also want to highlight, Oner has gone for PTA. Very aggressive early game room. You have a couple of choices you can go for with Kindred. We've seen Conqueror, we've seen Lethal Tempo. PTA specifically means that like in the early levels, level 3, pre-6 skirmishes, you get so much more power than you otherwise would.
Well, yeah, and especially in the early ganks, right? Your Q is basically an auto reset. It functionally works like that, so it is pretty easy to proc PTA on these ganks. And it'll be exciting to see what he can get done in these early levels. Can he actually start to collect these marks, which is going to be very important for him. You know, because Kindred pre-4 marks is very short range, and there's so much engage on the JDG side that it becomes really difficult to actually get a lot of damage out effectively without putting yourself in range of that.
Yeah, that's actually why I really like the UI update. So now we can track and see when he gets to that very coveted 4 marks that could be coming in sometime this game, or whether Kanavi can just completely deny him that. The counter game towards Kindred is a game in unto itself.
Absolutely, and like you were saying earlier, you know, the lack of AP on the T1 side could potentially become an issue. We see 369 is playing grass. You know, I am expecting him to probably go more of that tank route. Kanavi, of course, knows now that he has been spotted.
Yeah, Oner immediately blast cones his way over there. Kanavi trying to fight back, but already Oner is going to get the flash. He's into the brush though, Ignite! He comes around in first blood for Kanavi!
What a flash from Kanavi, playing it so slow, and then early flashing into the brush. There's no vision there for Oner. Knight is already there on the roam, has the stun prepped, and his first blood for Kanavi.
And that's such a high variance play. Yes, if you get the kill, it works out. With Kanavi, keeping the presence of mind, spots the wards, gets the damage down, and then is able to make his way over. And even though Knight was shoved in, gets to the play first, has the shortcut. And as a result, JDG picking up a big early game lead.
Yeah, that was so aggressive here from Oner. You know, the ward comes down, so he knows what's happening. And Kanavi is just playing this really, really calmly, just moving over towards the brush on the right side. He is one auto from that E proccing, and he's dead. He gets first blood there, and this becomes very, very well worth it. But the early W that was saved for the perfect time, then immediately flashes while still in invis, so that final auto could never come through. And then as soon as the stun comes out from Knight, Kanavi just pops right out of that brush, helps to finish him off. That was huge for JDG.
Yeah, fantastic heads up. Roam over as well from Knight. Faker, of course, was trying to get there, but it's just how it's going to work if you're in the enemy jungle. Oner overly aggressive, but see what T1 can do to get themselves back into this early game. I like the gusto that they're playing with, but it needs to work a little bit better than that.
And it does look like he actually got one mark. So one of the scuttles was able to pick up the mark off the scuttle, which is always really nice, getting that first early mark kind of for free.
Feels good.
Exactly. So going to be feeling good about that. And already moving out here around mid. Looks like it's just going to be a recall, though.
369 and Zeus, wet noodle fight towards the top side of the map. Really glad that we're up here checking it out. This is where all the high octane action is going to be going on.
We need to make sure that we know that they're both getting their grass props. You know, you got to make sure, and obviously, unless any jungle intervention comes in, this top lane matchup not expected to have anything going on in the early game.
Yeah, nothing too crazy, but you know, the better traits are, you know, sometimes you can whittle them down, create an advantage, and these are more the explosive side of tanks. You know, it's not just an Oner in this line, so maybe we'll see some action. Ksante has been known to get some solo kills in his time.
Every now and then.
I like your optimism, absolutely do. Kanavi making a little bit of a peep into this bottom lane. Gumayusi Keria going to respect it and do back away. Waves are just going to crash here once again. And having a look at some of the CS numbers, it is T1 favored in that department, but still that first blood working out for JDG. And I don't think this early game is going to be super relevant this time around. You can see both of these teams, so much utility coming from that top side of the map. And it's Ruler on Jinx. And, you know, Ruler was in the LCK for a while. He played this champion quite a lot. Pretty good at what he can do in the later stages of the game, going back to some of my memories.
Yeah, absolutely is. And I'm going to be interested to see, you know, are they actually going to be trying to challenge towards some of these early dragons, or is it going to be more of that play towards Herald? You know, T1 is a team that really knows how to snowball in the early game. Heralds are a big priority for them oftentimes. They're so adept at actually setting up for these. They love to get the early swaps up towards top lane, love to try to play for that, really expand their gold lead.
And early objectives have definitely favored T1. Not a lot of focus on Dragon and things like that here for JDG. They like to wait until mid to late game. They generally just get a Baron and win. That's kind of how it's been working here at MSI. And we'll see whether that is going to be the case, because T1, they very much enjoy Baron. Baron is going to be the thing. We just wait until 20 minutes, and that's when you know there's going to be action. So if you've only got a little bit of battery on your phone, right, and like you're watching the stream and you need to have like this
maybe you're
time
almost
to
out
turn
of
the
data.
video on, you know, you're almost out of data. It is 20-minute mark is probably your best bet.
There'll be a team fight.
Yeah, that will be it. That's when you turn the quality up, you know? It's perfect.
And one way or another, I do expect to see the first fights break out specifically towards Herald. I do think Dragons, with how a lot of the games have played out, early Dragons don't matter nearly as much. We've seen teams kind of forgo that in favor of trying to get the Herald early, because getting actual gold onto your AD carry, right, by the use of Heralds, particularly with Aphelios, who with the right weapon set can obviously just, with a Herald and maybe 1 or 2 kills, get a turret from 100 to 0, can be a really good start. So for JDG, I also expect them to maybe roam up missing. I think having Braum at that Herald skirmish makes the game so much harder for T1, because otherwise there are a number of targets on JDG. I think you can try and 100 to 0. With Braum there, that doesn't really seem like a possibility.
But I do like this from Kanavi. Level 6, just clones over the wall, drops a pink, so knows that he is unspotted. T1 may be suspicious, but not even using Tibbers to actually scout out the river there. So this is going to be secured now. Oner, of course, is on top side, so not going to be able to contest. And Knight just using this Tibber as well. This is becoming really common, just using it for prio.
Just burning down the Nautilus. It's very frustrating thing to deal with, yeah. Tibber's got super tanky, and I think that's one of the biggest issues here. You need to bring your jungler over to claim that 50 gold.
And Zeus will be fine, gets the dodge. 369 not going to be able to knock him onto the turret. And as expected, immediately after JDG pick up the Dragon, it is T1 now starting up Rift Herald here. We do see, as mentioned, missing roaming up, does have level 6 available here on the Braum, but I don't know if they'll quite be on time here. Yeah, I don't think they'll make it. We still see them continue though.
Yeah. Keria over here as well, does have the Lantern available if he wants to get Oner out of any trouble. Full lane swap though, as Gumayusi and Keria are moving up towards that top side of the map.
And as you were talking about earlier, he's on white gun, right? You know, so he does have that proper weapon set up. You know, if they want to drop it, they're looking for the engage.
Yeah, big old flash forward. Misses the last Q though to Zeus as 369 flashed out of the way. Still not out of danger just yet as T1 push this minion wave towards the turret. Oner still with that Rift Herald in hand. Shelly to come down and try and get them first turret blood.
Kanavi is here though, and missing is on the roam, but Kanavi getting really chunked.
Yeah, Cyclone's massive. He gets over the wall with the Warrior Tricks. A very cute little play there, but now 369 is left to the Wolves, and he's underneath the turret. He's going to be taken down. Speaking of Wolves, he's going to gobble him up. And now plates are falling here on this top side.
And right now, with the right guns available, T1 can just chew through this turret in a matter of seconds. That's going to be first turret blood, and T1 with this early herald and the swap towards topside of Gumayusi and Keria able to get an early gold lead.
Yeah, it's huge for T1, and it just felt like JDG didn't really respect the play. Now trying to get a turnaround on a Keria, but an easy flash will get them out. Can they even stop the charge? No one is actually really responding to this. They are farming plates on bot side here with Ruler, of course, trying to even this out, but very clearly 369, nice
another
buffer from Faker. Yeah, so 369 wanted to stay under the tower, right? Like, he was hanging around. Missing had moved up. Kanavi was behind him, and I think they were expecting that the dive would come through straight onto 369, and then Kanavi would kind of jump over the wall, look for a turnaround. But because he wasn't actually there, he just gets found in the jungle, pushed out of the jungle, and then all of a sudden it's a 4v1 for 369 under his tower.
And in the midst of all of it, we then had, Keria having to flash out of the way of Missing's ultimate there as well. So definitely playing pretty aggressively on that top side of the map. Biggest thing is the fact that that turret fell down and all of that gold went over to the Aphelios. But Ruler was hanging out there towards that bottom side, like you say, didn't manage to take the turret, so the gold trade in favor of T1, but it was a big investment. JDG keeping him down there, making sure that he could deny a bit of gold and pick some up for himself. So as you can see, still not anything over like a 500 gold lead or something like that.
Yeah, not massive by any means. And Ruler is basically tied with Gumayusi, in the individual gold, because he actually got solo gold on the plates where it was split up on that top side. So yeah, T1 did get more team gold. But Ruler really going tit for tat with the enemy marksman.
Also do note, Oner still only on 2 marks, wasn't able to mark 369 when it went for that topside dive, did pick up a second scuttle, but still going to be keep tracking that, particularly because JDG in short range scenarios has such a lethal comp. Now posturing here towards the mid lane. Still a decent amount of time here before the dragon will spawn, and wondering whether that will be where our second fight does break out. Neither mid laner really has been too involved thus far.
Nope. It's just been Knight pressing his Tibbers button whenever it is off cooldown. I absolutely love it. Make sure that you're just playing 2 champions at once for as much of the game as you can. It's fantastic
stuff. He walked
stuff.
over early, he got help out his buddy.
Yeah. That was before Tibbers was even available. And then he starts micromanaging. Now he can walk to both sides at the same time. He can't because there's a tether range. But never mind. 369 here. Possibly going to get dove again. There is the all-out, just delivers him to Oner. Fantastic cast, but there is another flag for 369. It's not enough. Just takes a drink, gives him a thumbs up, and he's absolutely fine.
Beautifully played there by 369. He even gets the flash out of Oner and does survive. And now Kanavi up here to the top side. It's Zeus' turn to get out.
He's going to be able to back away. Oner was still there, but both of them now going to be backing. Some great defensive play here by JDG so far.
And that's also with Oner investing a flash, right? Not actually being able to catch up on that. Did get the Gromp mark, so is now up to 3. But if they get the kill on 369, they can possibly threaten the turret. Instead, because of him staying alive, Kanavi immediately rotating up takes a lot of the aggression and tempo out of that play.
Absolutely, and just to touch back on the Knight versus Faker matchup, one of the nice things about playing against these tank matchups on Annie is you can actually farm so much first strike gold with the Tibbers. So he's almost farmed like a kill's worth of gold. He's up to about 250 gold on his first strike, only through this laning phase. So it is quite nice, and it's one of those things that can sometimes be overlooked. Guaranteed gold pretty much every time. Nautilus cannot poke that off.
Yeah, we've seen so many different builds from the Annie. Of course, over in the LCK, it was Rod of Ages the majority of the time. Here at MSI, we've seen so many Ludens, things like that. But for the perpetual Tibbers playstyle, nothing is better than Leandre's.
Absolutely, and it's a lot of frontline here for T1, so I do think Leandre's going to be great in the team fights. It looks like we're already going to be setting up for this second dragon. T1 not looking to give this one away. 369 is coming out of base. It's going to be about mid lane prio here, and then both teams will try to play through into the river, but it's T1 that has the vision advantage for now.
Managing to get into that river, get some wards down where they can. JDG always gravitating towards Ruler. Hook goes just wide onto Missing.
Yeah, 369 does have a flank angle here. Has not yet been spotted, but T1 will be aware that he could be around. He's not showing on the map, so they have to know he's looking for some sort of flank angle. And again, that is why T1
Oh, that's a flash. Tibbers, massive wombo combo. And immediately the Thresh is going to go down as well as the Kindred. Knight takes out Faker as well. And JDG destroyed 3 before they could blink.
And T1 lulled into a false sense of security. Beautiful flash Tibbers there from Knight. He's been calmly farming, waiting for the right moment, goes in, gets a decisive win, and JDG get the dragon.
And Knight both starts and ends the fight in one move there. What a play from him, finding the initial engage. Kanavi coming in to follow up as well. JDG take the fight into their own hands. Flash, Tibbers onto immediate follow-up, knock-up on 3. Jinx ult across multiple. Braum ult there as well. The CC layering was perfect from JDG. There was no recourse for T1 in this fight.
That's a happy night right there on your screen.
Oh, he knows.
An incredible Tibbers play, and as the dust settles, that is now JDG with the gold advantage.
And really crucial there is that they made sure that Oner didn't get to play the game, right? If Oner is able to get a
if he's ever out of CC, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they can prolong that fight, they can try to re-engage, but because he gets 100-0, no recourse, JDG win the first 5v5 of the game.
And that's why the CC layering is so important, right? Because Oner's even on Merc Shreds. If you actually mistime that at all, if you're just spamming out all of your stuns, your knockups at the same time, he's going to get that Lamb's fight off. And yes, there is the Gragas ult to answer, but that is still going to delay the fight. That is still going to buy time for Guma to perhaps get something going.
And when you've got Cyclone and Tibbers and things like this, these stuns are not massively high-range AoE, so the cast can ruin things a little bit in certain stages there. JDG, you're going to have to play it out well, and we've already seen that they can absolutely do that. Bottom side outer turret does fall in trade for Shirley here. That is going to be collected by T1.
And you do have to be a little bit concerned about this potential nice ult there, just trying to stop the basis of this potential Ocean Soul. Because again, you know, it is 369, you know, expected him to be going tank. He is going tank. He's playing Grasp. He's already got his Sunfire completed. It's pretty much purely physical damage on the T1 side.
Well, Faker engaging onto the Braum here, and immediately he is just dead. Showed him the door, as it were, as now Oner is going to have to skip himself out of there. Tibbers running amok under the turret will be taken down, but that's T1 with no response.
Yeah, Faker really overplaying his hand there, perhaps thinking they could just get an easy chunk onto missing, but he commits the Braum ult very quickly. All of a sudden, the Braum passive stacks up during that. He's stunned up, has no way back to the tower. It's a freebie for JDG.
And Faker doesn't have a mythic yet, or even a first item yet, right? And as long as JDG keeps him on the back foot, keeps blowing him up before he has the time to respond, that can take quite a while. And if this Nautilus isn't a reliable frontline, I think a lot of the comp from T1 falls apart. If JDG just gets to hard engage on Faker, on Keria, or on Zeus, blow him up in a matter of seconds, then the rest of T1 isn't able to play forward.
I think part of the difficulty is the follow-up from T1. You know, Zeus can try to get into the backline. Faker can go forward, drop the Nautilus ult on Ruler, try to look for a hook, but then it's going to be Kanavi, Knight, 369, missing, all stepping forward and pushing back Gumayusi and Oner. And if they can't get into the backline, actually follow up on that ultimate on Ruler, I think that is going to be the real challenge. So I do think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Zeus to be able to find an angle to follow up on what Faker is doing, because a lot of these T1 members don't really have the ability to do that with their kits.
Yeah, it's just not really much of a 5v5 style composition out of T1, right? It feels a little bit more like that pick comp. You can separate that one key target, utilizing the all-out, things like that. Whereas JDG, you press your R buttons together except for Gragas, and then you're feeling absolutely fantastic.
Also credit to Missing. I think he's been playing extremely far forward on the Braum, because he knows T1 can't really engage on me. If they try to, then throws your shield up, is completely fine. But it also means that they keep tabs of where everyone on T1 is, and if you can't start a fight with a good Nautilus hook or a Thresh hook on the backline, it becomes really hard, as we see, because the blow-up potential, the 100-0 CC chain for JDG is definitely there.
It absolutely is, and I actually really like Missing going for the locket here. You know, I do think, you know, if Ruler is to die, it's going to be right off the bat. You have that locket there, have that additional peel, that protection for your marksman is going to be so, so important. And they have really set him up for success. You know, already has the Zeal. This is a build we're seeing a lot of these days on Jinx. They just go Kraken into Zeal, and then they go IE straight off that. Then they'll finish the Zeal item up later.
Well, bit of an engagement here as Kanavi's just going to get out of there. Presses his Ori Trickster button. He's going to be absolutely fine, so no worries there. T1 moving back into this river once again. A dangerous zone of the map for the LCK representatives, as we've seen prior.
And what's crucial here is Knight has his flash available again. Think back to the last fight, how that started off. This time around, T1 can't get caught off guard.
He's teleporting in once again. It's going to be Faker getting caught out. This time he has a lantern, and he's going to be able to get to safety. Not a whole lot invested outside of that Cyclone from Kanavi, I believe, as the hook is going to connect there onto Missing. And there's another Flash Tibbers right on top of Gumayusi. This time, they're not going to be able to get any kills, but T1 have to back all the way off.
Exactly. Guma loses his cleanse, and he's down to about 20% HP. He's going to try to heal up off the Wolves. So we'll see if that can actually buy enough time here. Dropping Herald mid, trying to buy time for Guma to heal up. T1 clearly still interested in trying to contest this dragon.
Yeah, and they're going to teleport on top of Shirley here as well to get themselves back into this one all together. Faker going to turn up with a full health bar. Shirley going to buy them some space and some priority here. Another hook is going to connect. A second one going to come through onto 369. Lanton comes out yet again. JDG just holding their ground though. Missing's door is so powerful.
Everyone is basically still full health because the backline can't actually add anything but either a Braum or Zeus.
Another hook from Faker. Immediate cleanse from Ruler there, though. It's like he didn't get CC'd from that passive, but another one comes through. Keria is going to land his own. They're just one-upping one another here. Zeus underneath the turret. He finds the Q onto Missing, and everyone's going to sail up. Another max range hook from Faker as they take down the turret, but it trades for Faker's life. Another hook's going to connect because, of course, all of them do. But T1, they have lost one, and Keria misses that hook there, so I guess they're human.
Call him DJ Khaled, because that's another one from Keria. Hitting hook after hook in the mid lane there, but it's JDG who are up a member here, and they're going to be the ones with Prio moving down into that bot side river. Missing is low, but they can just start this up, and if they get this third dragon this early on, this is really problematic for T1.
And by the end of that play, even though T1 was re-engaging, they weren't able to get a kill. Faker died, and 369 just rotated towards top, was able to crash multiple waves into the turret, and by the end of it, JDG is still able to pick up Soul Point here this early on.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, cool hooks and stuff like that, like great plays, but yeah, you took the outer turret in the mid lane. We now have Soul Point. We have so much control of the map. Let's check out the replay.
Yeah, I mean, the hooks from Keria were great, but they just don't really have massive damage actually come through. This second one, obviously, on the clone, the flip in there. Then Faker going really deep here. Does land the hook onto the Braum, but the tower is on him. So much damage is actually turned around. The reset is popped there by a Jinx as Ruler gets another kill with the final rocket. Yeah. And you can tell that JDG very well aware of T1's Baron tendencies because as soon as they took that dragon, it was only 20 minutes into the game. They immediately fired Jinx ult over at the Baron. They say T1 could be rushing this. As we know, time and time again, they have done that in the LCK.
Yep, they are absolutely not surprised whatsoever. As T1 now moving into that top side river. Zeus moving down as well, and it looks like T1 are setting up for it. We'll see whether it is going to be a Baron start. I would expect not.
Yeah, you never really know.
Yeah.
Do note, Oner did actually hit his 4 marks, means that he has a little bit more range to work with, and we saw damage lacking for T1 in the previous fights. This should hopefully allow them to stand up to JDG a little bit more.
It will definitely help, but I mean, the problem is, you look at itemization in mid lane and bot lane, you know, it's a full zeal up there from Ruler. Knight is already on 2 full completed items. Faker just has 1 and some scraps, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not even close to his second item. So the carries are really set up very, very well. 500 gold from first strike gained by Knight this game. As Cronicler is pointing out, it has been so value. This tower is gone for sure, and JDG are really marching ahead in this game.
Yeah, they're just staying cool, calm, and collected, saying, well, you guys can play your fancy little throw-out hooks game. We're just going to win. Is that cool? And they are certainly making it work here so far. 3 dragons to nothing, 6 kills to 1. And 2 turrets apiece for both of these teams. T1 going to have to get some control back here in this game.
It's going to have to be some sort of a big play, you know, from Zeus, from Keria or Faker. It has to be the X factor because I just don't think they can win front to back. Missing is destroying them in these fights every single time they get a hook. Every single time they feel they have a pick. It's a Braum in your face, blocking all the damage from Guma, blocking all the damage from Oner.
Will they get another flash? This time out of Ruler. That is a key summoner spell for the next fight.
I'm glad to see that Ruler's still the same. That's the Ruler spot right there. Only has to give up his flash. Have seen him get caught in situations like that many a time as the hook.
Yeah, going to connect. That is going to be a second to come through as well. Flayed back. Not a whole lot of damage though, but Keria is still going to be able to take down 369. It's going to be a massive cyclone, but Lamb's Respite is going to come through. Faker just flashes barely onto the end, but now it's Ruler's turn to clean up, and he's getting excited. Zeus down so incredibly low, and the Aphelios going to get pulled in and taken down. JDG wanting to try and get an advantage in this fight as the zap just barely outranged by Keria, and in the end, it is a 2 for 2.
Crucially there, Zeus went for a flash Q for it, but didn't actually find Ruler, so he was able to just continue to do damage.
Oh, there it is. Here's the advantage. Oh, never mind, and he'll take the land to safety.
Nicely played for Zeus to actually get out of that. Knight even committed his TP. He actually TP'd down the bot lane to try to wrap around him. They really wanted to get that final kill, but again, it is Ruler getting paid, and that is the big difference in these fights. Ruler has not really been threatened. T1 have not been able to get into the back line. The initial hook comes in, but again, it's onto the Gragas, and look at the follow-up here from Knight. He dives onto the back line, pushing them back, stunning both Oner and Guma, so the follow-up damage isn't there immediately.
And as we see here, the battle gets elongated by the Lamp's Respite coming through. Faker flashes over the ball, but look at what Zeus attempts to do here, right? The attempted re-engage, the sidestep from Ruler there. If he gets picked up and Guma's on top of him, that's a win. But instead, Ruler's movement and the rest of his team standing guard means that they're able to take the team fight.
It's just beautifully done here. JDG picking up where they left off against BLG. Their team fighting has been so on point. They are a tough nut to crack, and it is going to be 40 seconds until a potential Ocean Soul here for JDG. And the big problem is going to be this Braum and this Gragas, who you cannot burst down, who are going to be stacking armor. How are you going to be able to kill them when they got Ocean Soul?
Not entirely sure. We'll see whether we find out or whether it's going to be JDG destroying a Nexus instead. Hook is going to go just a little bit wide here by Keria in the mid lane as Knight just throws a bear at him, and that is a really dead Thresh, guys. I don't think there's going to be any way out for him. Teleport to come forward as well as JDG 10 seconds on Ocean Soul. Zeus wrapping around, but it's a 4 versus 5. Missing. He's just walking towards him. Cyclone. He's going to land onto everyone as Gumayusi gets knocked up. He tries to ult, but it's a double kill for Ruler. And Oner is now going to have to ult just by himself. There is no way they can fight for this dragon, and JDG in such a great spot.
It's a complete blowout here. Again, Knight on the Annie finds a crucial target. And that is going to be a soul point here for JDG, or rather the soul, Ocean Soul coming through, and T1 already couldn't get through this front line.
And the Baron now to boot. They're going to be able to walk over and grab this. Knight, to me, has been such a standout in this game number 1. His engages have made all the difference. Missing, denying everything from T1. And it's Knight finding all the right angles here from JDG on the other side. Oner is going to try to see if he can make a miracle happen, but 369 will be keeping him out of this pit.
Yeah, Hook is going to go wide there by Keria as well. So the Baron is going to fall, and T1 not going to be able to do anything about this as Ruler. Oh man, it's like he glanced at Keria for a moment, and Keria almost just passed out. T1 going to have to back away. I don't know how many options they have left now, gentlemen.
Not a lot, and I think this is just such smart play from Knight. He knows there's no flash on Keria, and T1 will not be able to actually take a 4v5 if they get this free kill at the start.
What you also see is that Keria is standing there thinking he isn't seen. Zeus at the same time is flanking around. They were trying to get backline access, but because JDG identified as start the fight, immediately take down the Thresh, the rest of the front line falls apart immediately. Leads to the Dragon, Baron, and an almost insurmountable advantage here for JDG.
Happy players over on JDG's side of the rift as T1 look to try and defend this inner turret. Ruler just having an absolute field day on this Jinx right now. Gets the zap out, but looks like just backing away from this one right now.
And you gotta love Knight in the Trash Talk video talking about you'll just be another stack of my mage eyes. Look what he has purchased up. He's got 10 T1 names written down in the book, and he's gonna be looking for more.
309 for Knight. So it feels like a bit of an upgrade over his top laner, the scoreline at least. As T1 defending yet another inner turret here, but JDG, they have free access to this bottom side jungle. They can just move to whichever turret they deem deserves to go down. Hook is going to connect, but missing. He's a Braum.
He doesn't care.
No, not at all. Flame Chompers go through. Another Hook is going to be there, but what does it actually mean? Not a whole lot, as this inhibitor is going to fall now in the mid lane. What is next here on the menu for JDG?
Go bot, take the tier 2, look for another tower here. They're threatening the wraparound, so T1 is going to have to pull back. They're going to have to look to defend at the inhibitors if they want to at all. But the Braum is even stacking a tremendous amount of armor at this point. 369 has a stopwatch. There's a stopwatch on Knight. So they're picking up all these luxury items. JDG could very well just close the game here if T1 misstep.
See whether T1 have one team fight left in them. Another Hook is going to connect there as they're underneath this inhibitor tower, but immediately Oner is going to go down. He couldn't hold again. Faker is going to follow. Gumayusi's in amongst 5 people, and T1 are relegated to the fountain. That is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1, much like it did in 2022, is going to go to JDG in this one.
And JDG, full control. It starts with first blood. Kanavi outplays Oner, stays alive. But to me, it's about night and missing. The amount of control in the fights from this Braum combined with Knight's engages means that JDG take a commanding game one.
It's absolute domination here in game number one. T1 just did not have the answer.